Hello, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today for our first LinkedIn Live webinar on broadcast industry trends, building what's next in media production. My name is DeMaio. I'm one of our senior managers with Qvest in our broadcast transformation group out of our New York office. I've been working in the broadcast space for a little bit over 25 years now and recently joined the Qvest team in late February. I'm excited to be here today to talk about these industry trends and how the last 4 years have really impacted the broadcast industry. Today, we'll be joined by not only members from our US team, but also from our Germany team. We would like to ask our audience to please put in the chat where you're tuning in from. Today, we have a great of panelists, starting with Tim Day. Tim is a Senior Vice President of our Broadcast Transformation Department with Qvest out of our New York office. Tim, nice to have you with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sal. So a little bit about my background, 25 years of consulting experience. I have a huge passion for transformation and helping clients move beyond their existing workflows into something a little bit more dynamic and exciting.
Thank you, Tim. I'd like to now introduce Jonas Michaelis. Jonas has recently been named the CEO of qibb. We'd like to first congratulate Jonas and say that we are excited to have you with us today all the way from Germany.
Thanks, Sal. Yeah, very great to be here. Very happy to be on the panel and tell you a little bit about what we do at qibb. Personally, as you said, just got promoted to CEO and basically responsible for the entire qibb integration platform and all our customer projects, and really happy to discuss about a couple of use cases later on.
Awesome, thank you, Jonas. Now I'd like to introduce Christian Münch. Christian is our Sales and Business Development Manager with Qvest out of our Germany office. Christian will be speaking about makalu, a Qvest product. Christian?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Sal, for the warm introduction. Thanks for having me, and I'm very much looking forward to tell you something about makalu in this webinar today.
Thank you. Glad to have you here. So today's agenda will cover a little bit about who Qvest is and some of the services and products we offer. Tim and I will speak about the state of broadcast today, as well as some of the things that went on at NAB 2023. Jonas will talk about qibb and how they are helping to address today's industry needs. And then Christian's going to talk about makalu, a cloud-based playout, automation, and ingest product brought to you by Qvest. This will also be followed up by a live Q&A. Please, though, feel free to put your questions in the comment section throughout the entire presentation, and they will be addressed at the end. So now a little bit about who is Qvest. I'd like to ask Tim Day to come in and just talk about who Qvest is, as well as some of the services we offer.
Yep. Thanks, Sal. So Qvest is a global broadcast systems integration and consulting company. We have over 1,200 people right now within the company and continue to grow as our footprint expands around the world. We have over 400 people now in the US, and really excited to continue helping our clients in the media and entertainment industry expand their technology footprints to take on new business use cases. The company as a whole, we have over 20 offices globally and have been servicing many of the top media and entertainment as well as broadcast companies around the world. Not only do we do consulting and systems integration, but we also have the capacity to do development and bespoke systems from the ground up. And that includes UI, UX design, and also as part of some of our larger change management initiatives or transformation initiatives, we have over 50 change experts that really help ease the burden of the change within the organizations. So in terms of the practices that we currently have in the US specifically, we have a broadcast transformation practice. That's an area that I'm currently running. It really focuses on transformation of our clients, going from legacy technology to IP-based technology stacks with the advent of SMPTE 2110, for example, really helping our clients move to new operating models as well as new software-driven solutions to help them expand their footprint within their customer base. We also have a very large rights management practice that really helps our clients monetize their content. So helping with rights and royalties, for example, within the Hollywood space and also the broadcast space, as well as actual consumer products rights management. We help with that as well. And in order to help ease that burden, we developed a Salesforce practice that really focuses on CRM and customer experience to help our clients not build systems that allow for the sales of those rights management deals to go through. And also that group really focuses on customer experience, so helping our clients build out next generation streaming platforms and pop-up channels for their customer base. We have a pretty advanced data and analytics group that focuses on taking all the data associated to content workflows around the enterprise and modeling them into creating insights so that business decisions can be made based on the transactions that are occurring within the ecosystem. We have a very healthy content security and cybersecurity practice that really focuses on ensuring that in pre-production as well as post-production and distribution, we have a very good handle on the security aspects of the content workflows. So that way we can ensure that the investments that are being made in content production are able to be secured and ensure that our clients have a healthy model as they do all of their localization, for example, globally, or their distribution to their third parties. And finally, we have a digital media supply chain practice that really focuses on the life cycle of an asset. So they're focusing on how content is created, how it's managed, and how it's distributed, and obviously all the workflows and master data management, metadata, etc., that goes along with that. So in terms of the broadcast transformation practice, we just do a little bit of a closer look. So the Qvest team has done a number of large facility build-outs that could be an entire broadcast facility, or it can be post-production rooms, for example, audio booths, etc. We also do a lot of work in organizational assessments to ensure that the organizational aligns to the new changes that are coming out within the broadcast space. And so as part of that, we obviously have to do a lot of architectural design and strategy. And so with that, we often are asked to help do solution selection and pick the right technologies that the customers may need. So in order to do that, we do a very structured model on how to pick the right technology, but also taking in some of the soft aspects of how it may impact the organization from a change management perspective. And finally, once we've done the strategy and design, we often do a lot of delivery of the actual IP-based solutions. So that would be working with vendors and the customer base to implement the technologies, making sure that they're fully integrated, and making sure that that data that's created during those transactions is able to be leveraged and harnessed, as I mentioned, to create some of those insights.
Thanks, Tim. As Tim is talking about who Qvest is, and we talk about the state of the industry, we think about the last 4 years for me in broadcast and what those changes have, are due to the pandemic. So, where we were with remote production pre-pandemic in 2019, where companies were starting to adapt and really investigate cloud-based workflows and remote production workflows, really more based on necessity than actually moving over to a full remote infrastructure. During the pandemic, really overnight, everybody was kind of forced to now figure out how to do a full-on remote production. And, in the very beginning, that was some shows with even cell phones going FaceTime and, doing Zoom Live, going out to air. So this kind of forced everybody to realize, one, that you can do a full remote production, and two, how do we make this easier and how do we protect ourselves to if this ever happens again? Now we look at post-pandemic, so today, where we are, and the hybrid approach has been really adapted, and not only adapted, but accepted by almost all broadcasters. And the necessity to be able to provide remote production capabilities to their workforce has been a really standard thing now. So, Tim, can you talk about where, as Qvest, we see that today, and how NAB was reacting to the kind of new workflow in this hybrid cloud-based remote and some still on-prem workflow that's coming out today?
Yeah, so taking into consideration walking the show floor, talking to customers, talking to vendors and partners, really what we found is that there is, number one, a push to move to a hybrid solution for the production and broadcast chain. There is a little bit of hesitancy to put direct to air components outside of the actual facility and having them on the cloud, but certainly enabling clients to or users to work remotely has become an absolute requirement, as well as leveraging the cloud for scalability and being able to ramp things up and down seems to be the norm now. And so a lot of our customers are struggling with, how do I get a hybrid model fully working for me? How do I make sure that I have the availability that I need? How do I make sure I have the disaster recovery that I need to make sure that the broadcast, is running smoothly? So certainly that we see the vendors are pushing forward with creating these hybrid cloud models and really supporting it, which is a really good thing to see. If I go back several years, there was literally very little on cloud that was enabled, and now it seems to be accelerating a lot faster as well. As part of that chain or that change, we're seeing that software solutions are actually moving to subscription-based models. So whether that be annual or monthly, we see the vendors pivoting from a one-time license fee with a support monthly fee to now actually just being a subscription, where they will either host the solution turnkey or provide licenses for the technology to be run on the cloud in the customer's instance of their cloud, whether it be Google or Amazon or Microsoft Azure. And so that's really a change as well. So what we see is that people are moving to an OpEx model as opposed to a CapEx model, and getting rid of a lot of the legacy, hardware that they would have to have invested in prior. Another area that we've been seeing as well is the media companies looking for agility. So they want to be able to create new channels. And really, if you think about it, what they're trying to do is untap the market of very hyper-focused consumers. So the idea behind it is to be able to spin up a new channel without disrupting the traditional broadcast chain, but to be able to try different markets or different subsegments within the market. So for example, if a company wanted to spin up a horror movie channel, or as part of a large sporting event, they wanted to spin up specific athlete-focused channels or specific sports-focused channels if it's a multi-sport type event. And so the ability to create these hyper-focused channels with specialized content is becoming a huge requirement for our clients to be able to have more of a direct-to-consumer experience and target their customer base. And the last thing that we've been seeing is, obviously, with the move from on-premise to cloud/hybrid, there's obviously a need to have everything integrated. And so, as I made mention earlier, the data is really important, but in order to get access to the data, you need to have workflows that interact between the different components, whether they be on-premise, whether they be in the cloud. You need something that is going to orchestrate all of those components and make sure that the data that's collected is seamless and put into data lakes, for example, that can be mined for further insights. So the ability for customers to be able to insert new components, to be able to spin up new channels, to move to an OpEx-based model, and really to embrace a hybrid cloud model is really the key findings that we came across at this year's NAB. And I expect that to continue over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I definitely, you touched on some great points, and the biggest one, a few of them are the OpEx to CapEx. If you look 5, even 6, 7 years ago, everything was CapEx. I mean, doing CapEx budgets was, enormous. And now with this license base and this, spinning things up very quickly, and the ability to just really, your footprint of where you can get to is now almost unlimited. But that does bring up some great points as an operations manager or someone that's back in home base trying to monitor this ecosystem that can be really all over the world, as well as make changes to it very quickly and on demand. This is really where qibb becomes one of our technology partners, becomes a really great tool for the industry. Having a single place to view this whole configuration is really a huge necessity for someone in an operations team or even as a engineer in charge, back at the home base. So Jonas, can you please just talk a little bit about qibb and really how it's helping address these needs in the industry today?
Yeah, of course. And yeah, maybe before we jump in, one great kind of insight this year, we launched our US presence basically for the first time, being at NAB in 2023, and won 2 Product of the Year awards, one from the NAB itself, and then the BAM award from IABM, which kind of is great recognition there for basically what we built with qibb as a product. So I think that's kind of first and foremost really cool to see that development that we have. And overall, I can't agree more with what you said before, Sal and Tim. Basically, naming that all of those different system solutions products are going to the cloud. Is a lot more hybrid workflows. It's a lot more OpEx models that we see, more consumption-based models that we see, and just in general, more and more products and more technologies that are popping up everywhere. I mean, we just have to look at the whole generative AI space, and there's a new product basically popping up every day that can be immensely useful. And as a result, just what we see is that the whole kind of system landscape becomes a lot more dynamic, and that you need something to be very to be able to very flexibly basically react and adapt to this dynamic in the industry. And luckily, a lot of these products that are popping up are API first, and this is really where we basically work with qibb, because what you can see in this picture here, and this kind of ties in perfectly to what you mentioned before, across the entire media supply chain, from planning over asset management, whether it's MAM or DAM system, integrating different storages, AI services, and then all the way towards publishing and distribution. Everywhere we see just more and more products popping up, more and more flexible models popping up, more and more hybrid workflows popping up. But really today, still a lot of these systems are just not very nicely connected, and we just see a lot of inconsistent data. Tim mentioned that before. We see a lot of manual processes where just operators just have to do repetitive tasks over and over again. And as a result, it's architectures that should be very flexible and very dynamic become very static, because if you want to make a change, it basically becomes a very big project with a long lead time, a long time to market. You need a big team of software developers, because in the end today it's all software in the end. And we know that we don't have this time, and we don't have these resources in the industry. And this is really why we developed qibb. And with qibb, a workflow looks like this. And this is just one example workflow that you can pick on the entire media supply chain. But really, what is it that makes a workflow and automation built with qibb different? What we do is we build API-based low-code connectors to all of these different products. So we have more than 60 really media-focused applications integrated by now. And then in our low-code integration platform, qibb, you can just drag and drop these connectors and build a workflow like the one that you can see here very, very easily. So let's say, a project is being edited, you want to ingest it together with some metadata into your MAM or DAM system. You might want to integrate new technologies like OpenAI to generate some summaries, headlines, and then kind of very seamlessly publish it to a CMS system, or inform your team in Slack or Microsoft, or archive the asset. And kind of building workflows like this with qibb, it basically just takes a couple of hours or days, depending on the complexity. And really how it works is it's all this one harmonized standard by us building API-based connectors to all of these systems. And that just makes it very, very flexible to adjust it. So let's say we want to have an approval workflow before publishing. We can drag a Slack connector in with an approval job that can be triggered by a supervisor. So that makes it very, very easy. And then given it's all one standard that we use, it's super quick to onboard new team members to it. and from our perspective, of course, new customers to it, and really enable our customers and the internal team within the media companies themselves to build new workflows, to adjust workflows very, very quickly with minimal coding background. So you don't need to have like full stack software engineers, software developers there to build something like that. And in summary, basically what this enables our customers is to become a lot more independent from single vendors, really enable them to avoid lock-in effects with big ecosystems, and just to enable them to pick best of breed solutions without data silos very, very flexibly, and then integrating them with just massively reduced cost, because you're so much more flexible, so much faster to integrate different things. You're so much more flexible, so you can really iteratively develop towards the goal that is really necessary, and not like a huge project list with thousands of requirements. Again, by doing all of it with qibb, you can very easily take control with a small team internally that's very, very easily trained on it, to make changes independently of big external advisors, of the vendors themselves, to make a change. And this is really kind of tying back to the two awards that we won, really this flexibility and this easiness of connecting all of those different products in this dynamic market environment in which we are currently is really the key benefit, and the reason why we have this traction and this recognition in the industry at the moment.
Thank you. I mean, first, congratulations on the accomplishments at NAB. As someone that's spent a good half of my career in operations and engineering for various TV networks, having a product like this would have been huge and really saved me from running all over the facility to different rooms and departments to check on the status of those systems. Where now that can be actually in other buildings or other states. So this is huge. Can you just walk us through really a practical application of qibb today?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, in general, as a tool, as a platform, really, you can do basically anything with it and automate or integrate across the entire media supply chain. So whether it's on the ingest side, automated metadata generation, archiving, housekeeping, rights management, distribution, and publishing, kind of, and along the entire chain. There are like hundreds of different use cases for qibb, and it really depends usually on the biggest pain point. Personally, I'm at the moment most enthusiastic about the whole rise of generative AI and tools like OpenAI's ChatGPT. And just one very simple example is, let's say you have video assets with a lot of text in it, like interviews, like press conferences, and rather than having someone internally watching all of it, summarizing it, internally there, what we can do is, with a very simple qibb integration, take the asset, like trigger a speech-to-text transcription of the asset, and then take this speech-to-text transcription and send it to, let's say, ChatGPT to extract the most important points of this discussion or of this press conference, to write a short summary that someone can look at, or even go further and immediately produce some highlight clip outs of that video.
Great. I know that there's so many different variables that really can affect this, but what is the time frame of a typical qibb implementation? Again, I know there's a ton of different variances, but
yeah, and the great thing is, and what we always focus on with our customers, is to start with really the main pain point and the most important use case, and usually we can get this up and running in a few days or even hours, depending on what we're looking at. So really you can see immediately some progress. So let's say the example of the ChatGPT summaries. You can have a first draft running within a couple of hours. So that's really, really cool. And of course, the more that you want to do and the more you want to fine tune, and the bigger the overall use cases that you look at, or the overall system is that you look at, we tend to work together for over a longer period with our customers to do more and more over time.
It sounds like that's exactly it, where you're kind of almost partnering with them to, as their ecosystem develops and they embrace more of this remote production, as well as hybrid or even more into the cloud, you guys are going to kind of help develop that along the way and really be a partner with them along the way, with, of course, the help of Qvest.
Exactly, totally.
What third-party systems or platforms does Qibb integrate with today, and what's the process, really to add new ones?
Yeah, so as mentioned before, we have more than 60 really media-focused applications integrated to today, and again, they're basically along the entire media supply chain, from the ingest side of the metadata generation, AI services there to do transcription, face recognition, but then also in the core of a lot of media-centric workflows are MAM systems or DAM systems. So we've got VDSpy, Mimir, Iconic, 10 of us. They're integrated. CMS systems as well, different storage providers, AWS, of course, Microsoft Azure services that are integrated with Qibb as well. So yeah, really there along the media supply chain. And then on the second question, kind of how is the process? It's really customer driven for us. So we talk a lot with our customers, with opportunities with partners like Qvest to hear, okay, what are the new products that need to be integrated? And then we simply prioritize them and get them on the platform one by one.
Awesome, thank you. Well, with the workflows like this and the ability to accommodate today's ever-changing landscape in the broadcast industry, a product like makalu really comes into play when needing to really just pop up a quick channel or add some content to an existing stream already, or really take advantage of this whole remote workflow that you're building from ingest all the way to playout. I'd like to bring back Christian to speak a little bit about makalu and how it's helping solve today's challenges in the actual production workspace. Christian?
Yeah, so thank you, Sal. It was already perfectly summed up in a way. So thanks you for this introduction. I want to give you a quick overview of the product makalu that we already showed on the NAB this year. And as the takeaway from the NAB and as a general status, I would say that playout is definitely not longer just for traditional 24/7 channels. There are so many digital TV platforms out there that enable all broadcasters to introduce new channels, to reach new niches and test new content to their customers. And this is a fast-growing OTT market with a distribution that takes this to the next level, absolutely. So pop-up channels, linear D2C is now playing a massively important role. So we feel that playout definitely needs to keep up, but we also see that makalu is definitely something and a product that will exactly meet these challenges and requirements. So but what exactly is makalu? Makalu, which we see on this next slide. So makalu is a software-defined cloud playout automation that enables media companies such as broadcasters, publishers, or content owners to quickly launch and easily manage linear, live, pop-up, and fast channels. And with makalu, these companies can optimize their workflows. They can then reach a wider audience, and which is very important, monetize more content. And makalu works as a one-stop shop product, and it covers the full feature end-to-end signal workflow from what we see on the left side, ingest all over to distribution. So starting with ingest as a task of makalu, we can provide everything, every kind of ingest, file ingest, feed ingest. We can push, we can pull material. There's an automatic transcoding within the product. There's quality control within it. Then we have a planning or scheduling task where makalu, as an integrated program, can allow it to import playlists from external traffic solutions. Then we support and provide graphics within this tool. You can add and use broadcast graphics or lightweighted HTML5 graphics such as Singular Live, or you can use more sophisticated graphics like Viz graphics. Then we have the task playout and streaming. So makalu enables single and multi-channel playout for traditional broadcasting, but also OTT. And in addition to this, makalu supports SCADI-based ad insertion technology, so you can meet growing demand for content monetization. Yeah. On the next slide, we have chosen the declaim different scenarios for one product. So makalu is its one product. We see at least 4 different scenarios where we can use it or where it's optimized for. So linear broadcast, whether ingest or transcoding, graphic inserts, caption, etc. makalu offers all functions of the traditional broadcast automation, and it's securing 24/7 signal distribution. You can also use it as a pop-up and event channel. So with all benefits of the cloud, of course, makalu is highly scalable. It's absolutely flexible, and so it's a perfect fit for your short-term capacity expansion. So new channels can go live in a record time at the minimum amount of costs compared to other conventional playout solutions, and it offers as a pay-as-you-grow or pay-as-you-go strategy. So you only pay for what you use. For fast channels, makalu supports, like I already mentioned, insertion of Q-tones such as SCSI 35 markers, and has an integration with server-sided ad insertion providers, which make it the perfect product to create and manage and monetize your content. And last but not least, makalu can also be used for disaster recovery. So it allows permanent synchronization with primary playout, and it can be easily spinned up with just a few amount of seconds. So it's a perfect use case where you especially benefit from the cloud technology.
Awesome, thank you. Can you talk about how makalu integrates with different systems or platforms like qibb?
Yeah, I mean, if in the definition of platforms, systems, you can answer this in separate ways. If you especially talk about qibb, I would answer this question with, does makalu has a service-oriented architecture based on REST API, so it's absolutely easy for us to integrate with products and manufacturers using the same approach. So qibb is a perfect example for this one. If you want to answer the question with different systems, platforms, in a way of hybrid backend structure, then I would say makalu is also the perfect choice because the makalu system, the core system, can run in the cloud, and you can bridge this technology with on-prem cloud to on-prem technology to optimize, for example, your editorial workflow. And if you're talking, or if you want to answer it from a fast channel perspective, you can say that makalu supports various lines of exclusive platforms such as Samsung TV, but also agnostic platforms like Paramount's Pluto TV.
Awesome. So thank you, Christian. So we're now at the live Q&A point. So if you do have any questions now, you can also you can put them into the comment section, as well as we have some already. So first, can someone in the panel provide some insight to the scalability of qibb and makalu and how well they adapt to different broadcasting environments? So I guess, so Jonas and Christian, if you can take that one.
Yeah, let me maybe start with the first one, or from the qibb side, basically how we scale. So qibb is cloud native platform, and yeah, basically with that comes scalability just from the infrastructure perspective. So with no load, we scale the platform, and then our customers can basically also commercially start with only a couple of workflows that they use and can perform. Basically endless workflows that they want to use, and then basically pay as to grow together with us.
Christian, how is that? How's the scalability of makalu, and how does that work?
Yeah, as I already mentioned, that the makalu natively runs in the cloud. I think if you use the benefits of the cloud, then it's absolutely scalable. So you can extend the channels you create as much as you like to. So, and as makalu is fully integrated in qibb, in the cloud management platform, it benefits from the same advantages in scalability.
Great, thank you. So the next question is, considering the key findings mentioned during NAB, what are some of the biggest challenges your clients are facing with hybrid cloud models? So Tim, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. I think there's a few things that come to mind when I hear that question. One of them would be that there still is a hesitancy to have the live air chain put on the cloud, right? So I think things like contribution. So for example, if I'm a news organization and I want to receive a lot of content coming in, yes, it makes sense to have that come into a cloud solution where we can encode it and route it through on-premise if we need to, or post-production in the cloud, whatever it may be. But that actual live air chain piece, the playout piece, becomes a concern for companies. And so I think that what we're starting to see is that there is a desire to move there, and the technologies within the cloud are becoming way more resilient. And so I think that that hesitancy has now started to shift away. Not all companies are totally comfortable with it, which is why we have the hybrid model that people mentioned. But I think over the next several years, there's going to be a shift to have very little infrastructure actually on premise, because, you know, as we mentioned earlier, a lot of the infrastructure is becoming software defined. And so therefore you can put in your environment where you have redundancy and resiliency to support the on-air requirements. And so I think that over time people will shift to a fully cloud model, but not everybody at this point. There are companies that are definitely more aggressive in the space. So for example, the pop-up channel market, there's a lot of focus on that, moving that fully into the cloud. The other thing that I see as a bit of issues to consider is that there are different dependencies or capabilities, I should say, between the different cloud providers. And so the capabilities that are in one cloud provider may not be in the other. And so managing your cloud infrastructure becomes a bit of a challenge, especially if you opt for a multi-cloud environment. So for example, if you try and mesh something from Google with something from Amazon and something from Microsoft, now you have three different infrastructures that have to be managed and that they have to integrate. And so looking at the capabilities is certainly very important when designing in your hybrid cloud solution to meet your needs.
Great. And we have another question that just came in. What are the concerns you would suggest to be wary of when uploading your content within these platforms, and how is cybersecurity integrated within these systems?
Who's the question?
This can be really picked up, I think, by Tim, maybe you and Jonas.
Sure.
It's kind of crosses over both.
Yeah, I mean, I look back to it and I remember that, you know, this is going back 10 years or so. In the Hollywood studio space, for example, there was this huge resistance to put content in the cloud or content in remote SaaS solutions, for example. And part of the reason is that if you're a media company, your content is your IP, it's your cash, right? So it's kind of like saying, hey, I'm a bank and I'm going to outsource managing my money to somebody else. So there was a huge concern around that model. And then obviously what happened was it began to be pretty evident that the on-premise infrastructure was actually a lot of times less secure than going into a cloud model. And so with some of the hacks that occurred, there was an immediate shift across a lot of the CIO and CTO groups to say, hey, we should really look at the cloud as a viable solution, especially because you have things like encryption at rest that in a lot of the storage capabilities are just native. And so you have these capabilities that would be tremendously expensive to manage and implement on-premise, that you can literally just turn on with a flick of a switch in the cloud environment. So, you know, if you don't have a good architect and architecture, you're going to have security holes. So you have to keep security as top of mind when doing anything. And often what happens is that people try and push back against security because it takes time to implement, right? And so with our content security practice, a lot of times what they're doing is they're auditing the full landscape and the full infrastructure to try and identify where those potential holes and bottlenecks are within the security environment. So I think it's, you know, it's not an easy thing to accomplish regardless of whether it's on-premise or cloud. I would lean towards saying that in a lot of instances, the cloud infrastructure is more robust and more secure than a lot of on-premise solutions.
And then maybe to add on this, because the second part of the question was, I think, how is cybersecurity integrated within these systems? So from a qibb perspective, given that the video assets don't sit on our infrastructure, but we basically, let's say they sit on an S3 bucket, that from within qibb, you would need to store the secret key, this S3 bucket, and we tell it, okay, move to the next bucket, and really what we do, kind of adding to what Tim said, is we really make sure that those secrets are very, very securely stored within qibb, with our secret management system, essentially, and then very granular role-based access control set up that we really can make sure that only those people with the permission access those secrets, really get access to those. So that's kind of a second layer on top of the let's say the infrastructure security itself.
It's a very good point, and thank you guys. So we're at the end of our webinar. I'd like to first thank everyone for joining us today in our first of many live webinars. To learn more about Qvest services and makalu, you can scan the QR code that's up on the slide right now. To learn more about qibb, you can visit their website and find them at qibb on LinkedIn. I want to really thank all of our panelists for joining us today. And if you missed any of this webinar or want to rewatch it, it will be available on our YouTube channel shortly. We'd like to thank everyone for tuning in at whichever time zone you really were in. And we look forward to doing more of these as we get going. So thank you again for everybody for joining, and hope you have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.